The regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council for Monday, June the 13th will come to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone willing and able please stand for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lord, we thank you for this gathering and this opportunity to exchange our thoughts on city matters. Please guide us in our deliberations and help us keep our issues in proper perspective as you have taught us to do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could all just take a moment of silence for the tragic shooting that took place in Florida this past week. Thank you. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor Panelides.
Present.
Alderman Budge. Here. Alderman Payoung.
Present.
Alderwoman Pendel Charles.
Present.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
Alderman Littman.
Present.
Alderman Kirby.
Present.
Alderman Pfeiffer.
Present.
Alderman Arnett.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present our first item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to add one item to the agenda, the City Council citation to the Annapolis High School 2016 valedictorian. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is ceremonial items, beginning with ID-274-16, City Council Proclamation for National CPR and AED Awareness Week.
If I could have Chief Stokes and the Fire Department join me at the front. So I have a proclamation here on behalf of the City Council, and I'll read to you. Whereas Annapolis joins the rest of the nation in recognizing the first week in June as National CPR and Automated External Defibrillator Week, and whereas in 2007, the American Heart Association, in cooperation with the American Red Cross and the National Safety Council, work collaboratively to federally designate a National CPR and AED Awareness Week. And on December 13, 2007, Congress unanimously passed a resolution to set aside June 1st through the 7th of each year as National CPR and AED Awareness Week, spotlighting how lives can be saved and for more Americans known through CPR and how to use an AED. And whereas during this week each year, the Annapolis Fire Department offers additional courses and CPR classes, conducts demonstration, hosts events, and distributes educational information on the importance of being CPR trained and AED use. In recognition of all of the good work being accomplished in the city of Annapolis, is extending CPR and AED Awareness Week to include June 13th through the 20th in an effort to continue its ongoing education. It is my goal to have all of Annapolis employees in the City Council, which we'll have to do later, certified in CPR by the end of 2017. Now, therefore, I, Michael John Panelides, Mayor of the City of Annapolis, do hereby proclaim June 13th through 20th to be CPR and AED Awareness Week. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This gentleman to my left is firefighter paramedic Chris Dew, and he is in charge of our AED CPR training program. And I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'll let him explain what this is his brainchild, so I'll let him explain it.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all of the City Council for allowing us to do this. We as the fire department actually only make a little difference when it comes to somebody who suffers a sudden cardiac arrest. It is bystanders who recognize an emergency and initiate CPR right away that truly save lives. We have shown this multiple times in our city recently. By doing this, by this proclamation, we're going to be able to train all of our city employees, and on top of that, any citizen who would like to be trained will also be more than happy to train them. But this will give plenty of people out on our streets every day, our recs and parks, our public works employees, our harbor master, everybody who works for the city will be available to respond and treat somebody who suffers a sudden cardiac arrest, making our job a little bit easier. People who learn CPR and do this are the true heroes. We just kind of help out in the end. I'd also like to present Noelle Lang from the American Heart Association, who was nice enough to come to share a few words as well.
So thank you.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of the American Heart Association. It's an absolute honor to be here and recognize what the Annapolis city has done in recognition of what the community can do to really impact the quality of care and recovery for the patients who suffer from a cardiac arrest. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a couple of ceremonial items, so I'm just going to stay down here. And the next we have is for Hannah Scott Chambers and memorandum. And if I could have the family members come up here and join us. For those of you who don't know, do you want to read the second? Mayor Chambers stepped in and served as the mayor of the city in a very difficult time, and we actually named this hall after him. And on your way out, if you could, take a look at the exhibit in the back is dedicated to his life, his service, and to his family for everything they've done and gone through with us. So very sorry for your loss and for your family. And we're going to read this citation. It's not just from me, it's from the entire city council. It says, in memorandum, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you, the family of Hannah Scott Chambers, this city council citation in recognition of her generosity and the numerous kind deeds that will never be counted, replaced, or forgotten. As the wife of former Mayor John T. Chambers, Jr., we honor the legacy of Mrs. Chambers as a wife, a mother, a teacher, a friend, advisor, and volunteer of numerous organizations. We also recognize her constant care for others in the community. While she grew up in Baltimore County's Turner Station, she married Mayor Chambers and quickly became an institution in the parole community of Annapolis and across Anne Arundel County. Her reputation as a master teacher at the Wiley H. Bates School solidified her place in history. She will be remembered as one of Annapolis's outstanding personalities, and today we recognize her significance and contributions to our community and dedicating ourselves to keeping her memory alive. Given under our hand and the Great Seal of the City of Annapolis on this 13th day of June, 2016, signed by myself and all the members of the council. Very sorry for your loss. And if anybody would like to say a few words, you're welcome. Anyone want to say a few words?
I'd just like to say that Ms. Chambers, as well as her husband, were residents of Ward 3. And I can truly say those were two people in my almost 62 years that I never heard anyone, no one, ever say a bad thing about any of them, either one of those people. They did tremendous work. Mrs. Chambers would give away the world. She was the most generous person I probably ever knew in my entire life. And the turnout for her homegoing on Saturday was a testimony to that legacy, as well as the legacy of her husband, who passed away 5 years ago. But we thank the city of Annapolis for recognizing Mrs. Chambers and all the works that she had done in her lifetime, and we appreciate the service that she gave to our community. God bless us all.
The next item we have up here is something new we're doing on behalf of myself and the colleagues for the City Council. We're recognizing the valedictorians from our school system. So we're doing Annapolis and St. Mary's. And the one woman from St. Mary's can't be here today, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Annie Hayburn, and she was a 2016 valedictorian of St. Mary's, but was not able to attend tonight because she's in a competitive swim meet. But I want to tell you a little bit about her, and she will also be receiving a citation for her achievements. She is a member of the National Honor Society, and Annie also participated with the National Latin Honor Society and attended the Scholars Convention for the Archdiocese of Baltimore in April. She earned the 2016 Athlete of the Year at St. Mary's and MVP of the swim team for all 4 years. She is a Scholastic All-Star for USA Swimming and was named the Capital Gazette Swimmer of the Year this year. For service, she led the Rosary Club, through which they sent rosaries to soldiers serving overseas or wounded in our hospitals. She will be attending Loyola University this fall and will be swimming for the Greyhounds. So let's give her a round of applause and spirit. The next one I have is for Aristides Haji Pantalid. If you come up here and join us, and his family as well. I want to take a point of personal privilege. This is my cousin. So it's extra special for me to be up here and know his family well. So I've come a long way. I was thinking about our history the other day, coming from Cyprus and all the things you had to overcome in adversity. So it's an honor to be here, and I congratulate you for this award. So on behalf of the citizens of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in recognition of being Annapolis Senior High School's valedictorian for the class of 2016. We acknowledge that you have a grade point average of 5.0 and have excelled in academics during all 4 years at Annapolis Senior High School, obtaining extraordinary honors and awards, including the Superintendent's Honor Roll, the National Honor Society, and the Spanish Honor Society. These honors were accomplished while you assumed leadership positions as President of the Future Business Leaders of America and Treasurer of the Annapolis Greek Orthodox Youth of America. You continue to set the bar at an extraordinary high level by adding extracurricular activities to your already hectic schedule and excelling as a violinist in the Annapolis High School Orchestra and Chamber Orchestra and as a member of the Greek folk dance team, which I did myself many years ago. As we applaud your many successes, we honor you tonight because you are an inspiration inside and outside of the classroom, both as a scholar and as a volunteer with Centro de Ayuda, the Center for Help, tutoring young children in English as a second language on Saturday mornings, and organizing fundraiser events to benefit Sarah's House. Given under our hand in the Great Seal of the City of Annapolis on this 13th day of June, 2016. Congratulations. I'll give you the award. Very proud, very proud, very proud.
I just want to say that I'm honored and humbled to receive this citation, but it reflects not only my hard work, but also that of my teachers, advisors, and mentors at Annapolis High School. So I'd like to thank them for all their guidance. Above all, I'd like to thank the unending support and love of my family here today. And though I will be going not too far to Georgetown next year, my heart will still remain here in the city of Annapolis. So yeah.
Well done, very nice. The last citation we have is for Anne Arundel County Partnerships for Children, Youth, and Families. Can you join us up here? Dying over here. So this citation is going out for all the hard work that they do in the community to make it a better place. On behalf of the citizens of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of being the 64th recipient of the prestigious Martha Wood Leadership Award, showcasing years of valuable service to the residents of the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis and the community at large. We recognize that the Anne Arundel County Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families was founded in 1993, providing leadership and opportunities for all in Anne Arundel County. From February to May of 2013, 10 participants received electrical training as a result of a Sustainable Communities grant awarded to the partnership, while 9 graduates of the program, 2 went on the jobs with electrical contractors, and successful participation in apprenticeship programs. We applaud the organization for its ongoing effort in providing opportunities to self-sufficiency, education, mentoring, and job training. We honor you tonight for your dedication to our residents and the contributions you make to our community. Given under our hands and the Great Seal of the City of Annapolis on this 13th day of June, 2016. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm delighted to be here tonight to receive this award, but it's actually an award for my staff, so let me just introduce them. Here's Twyla Mohammed, who does all the work with our Disconnected Youth Program, Shay Brooks, who does all the work in the City of Annapolis with struggling families, and Richard Cole, who works with homeless families every day. These are the true heroes here. I also want to recognize my wonderful and very supportive boss, Mark Hartzell, who is also the County Administrative Officer. So thank you for being here tonight, Mark. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. City Attorney, would you please present our next item?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with reports by committees.
Is there any alderperson that would like to present a report? That's a first. There's none. All right. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is an update from the mayor.
One of the things we're going to start doing once a month is do a quick update from the mayor to give my colleagues on the council a chance to know, and the public as well, some of the things that are going on. So the first thing I want to update you on is a meeting we had with HACA leadership for the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis. They were very glad to hear that the city has installed a total of 15 cameras, and they're in place, and that our city council has approved the transfer of $125,000 for overtime and cameras. And I want to thank my colleagues on the council for passing those amendments. Much has been accomplished since Mr. Brown, the new executive director, has come on board, and Mr. Brown is going to present a crime plan to the city council in the first meeting in July. We heard from residents that crime was a big issue, and we sat down with them the other day in my conference room, and we talked about what was going on. Mr. Colbert was there as well, so they've given us an update on that. We're also in talks on 2 other good projects, because it can't just be about police. There has to be a community engagement as well. And one of them is a partnership which we're hoping to roll out very soon with Comcast, and that's their free and reduced internet program. Currently, they have it, but only for children that are in a Title I program, free and reduced meals. And they've decided to extend that to all of the communities in HACA. So we're very happy about that, and hopefully get some other free internet within the community center. So after school, kids have a chance. When you think about jobs, employment, almost every job is online, and education. So we're happy about that. We're also in talks with North of Grumman. They had donated a computer lab in the past, and we're going to see if they will do that as well. Update on parking for people. For the first time ever, You can now get your permits online at AnnapolisParking.com. So a lot of people have gone through that, and that's a big success. No longer have to wait in line. If you have any questions, please call SP Plus at 410-263-4218. Another thing we realize is that kids need something to do after school. It's the summertime, it's hot. I know it's particularly hot in here and we're all dying. And Alderman Payon and I talked with the city manager, and we're going to be opening up the Stanton Center on weekends. So I want to thank Alderman Payon for coming up with the idea, and I support him on that. So from Saturdays, from April to November, 10 to 5, and December to March, from 1 to 5, they'll be open. Also on Sundays from 1 to 5. The last thing I want to update everybody on is the Forest Conservation Act. I want to thank my colleagues on the council for the work that they're doing. We met with the secretary, Mr. Belton, for probably an hour and 15 minutes, which is a lot of time. He's got the entire state to deal with, so we're making a lot of positive progress on that. And that concludes my report. Mr. City Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
All right. During comments by the general public, you can speak on anything that's not already scheduled for a public hearing. We have one person signed up to speak, and I should just say, if you're coming here to talk about the budget, that'll be immediately after this. The first person is Alan Hyatt. You could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Alan Hyatt, 200 Westgate Circle in Annapolis. I'm here to speak about the several resolutions that are on the agenda tonight, specifically R2116. I think they're improper. I think they're ill-conceived. I sent a letter to all of you today. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read the letter, but I want to spend a few minutes and discuss these, or this particular one with you. You know, there's a premise underlying the resolution that refers to a section of the city charter, and that is Article 3B, Article Roman numeral 3, small 3b, and I think it is incorrect. Now, the city attorney and I have respectfully exchanged some discussion about this, but if you would take a look at that, you may not have the charter in front of you. There's a section in the charter under Section 3B that states that when a property is annexed into the city, then all the laws and ordinances in effect with respect to the city of Annapolis apply to that annexed property. But the premise behind this resolution is that there's a 10-year period of time during which agreements can be made, and after which, if there's not a connection to city sewer and city water, then there's a violation of the charter. I suggest to you that is a very strained reading of that charter section, and I would urge you to carefully read that section, because the section talks about if prior to a referendum, and there was no referendum on this Catherine Properties deal that I'm talking about, the city adopts an ordinance or ordinances, and there was no ordinance or ordinances adopted. Under those circumstances, agreements can be made with respect to a 10-year limitation. And I know one time it came into play some years ago when, some of you may remember, when Chesapeake Harbor was going to be annexed into the city, and the agreement was for 10 years Chesapeake Harbor was going to have a deferral of City of Annapolis taxes. And that was in response to a referendum, and then there was an ordinance. Well, that didn't pass, but that's what this is all about. And, you know, this to state in a resolution that there's a requirement to adopt it because of that type of language in the charter, that's just a misnomer, and it's not right. It's just not correct. It's not accurate. And then there's a reference to the Public Facilities Agreement, and that is a contract. That is a binding contract between the property owner. This is Catherine Properties. As you all know, it's the site of the proposed Crystal Spring project. That's a contract between the property owner and the city of Annapolis. That contract, I don't know if you have that in front of you, you've had the opportunity to review it, but the contract states that there must be connection to utilities within a year, actually, with rights to extend periodically up to 10 years, for a dwelling that was occupied as of the effective date of the resolution that was serviced by well and septic. Well, there was no such dwelling occupied at the time of the resolution, as of the effective date of the resolution. So there's been no violation of the contract, no breach of that contract. And let's just say for a moment that there was. For 10 years, there's been no discussion about this. And some of you lawyers on the council know about waiver in contract law. Here, it's been ignored for 10 years, but it doesn't apply. And it's important for you to know that. So the agreement, this public facilities agreement, goes on to state, and there's a clause in it, in the agreement, that there has to be cooperation of the parties. Now, do you think adopting this resolution is in any way reflective of cooperation between the parties? It makes no sense. The treatment of this particular property owner has really not been appropriate over the years. The application, the whole concept of Crystal Spring has been politicized. It's been treated differently. This property owner has been treated differently. And it's just not, to take another step tonight with these types of resolutions is just not appropriate. If anything, there's been lack of cooperation. And, you know, if you're the property owner, you have to ask, has this risen to the level of a denial of substantive or procedural due process? Maybe. Has there been a constitutional taking of the property? You have to take a look at that. Has there been a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution because this property has been treated differently? Very well may be the case. Has there been a breach of contract because of the lack of cooperation? That certainly could be the case. And then, has there been a denial of civil rights under Section 1983 of the U.S. Code, Section 42? Could be. So, you know, if the contract, if the city of Annapolis thinks that the contract was breached, if this agreement is breached, there's a remedy. The agreement states that there is a remedy. One can pursue a breach of the agreement through the court system, and no one has initiated any type of action over the last 10 years. So, you know, I suggest to you that the intent of these resolutions may be to just cause more delay for Crystal Spring, and that's not the way it ought to work. If you don't like Crystal Spring, fine, that's up to you, but let the project go forward, let the Planning Commission ultimately consider it, and these resolutions really do nothing. You know, I don't think there's anything that you should be doing right now with regard to the resolution for annexation or the agreement, because they speak for themselves. And I'd like you to take a long, hard look at that. I don't think you should rush to adopt these resolutions. They're just not appropriate. And
I'm going to have to ask you to summarize.
I will summarize. All of these resolutions state that the agreements must be reformed. I don't think that's the case at all. And in fact, the agreements say that there's a section in the agreement for Catherine Properties that says if one section or one portion of it is not valid, then that portion goes out. The rest of it's valid. And I know there's language in the agreement that doesn't apply anymore, but that's no basis for going forward to adopt these resolutions. It sets you on a path that just doesn't make any sense. It's unprecedented. And I've been through a lot of annexations over the years, and there's been many years where properties didn't connect to public sewer until development was approved. This is no different, and I don't think you should handle it differently. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just say before one of my sponsors on this legislation chimes in that the breach wasn't just a breach. That's something we can get over. I would say it's a material breach, something that we're not going to be able to fix. In addition to that, being treated differently I don't think is the case. I think one of the things people talk about a lot is what the developers of Crystal Spring has gone through, the money they've spent. But nobody ever talks about the money that the city spent. Because what is money? It's basically time. If you added up all the hours that planning staff, DNEP staff spent, the Office of Law has spent, and they had 30,000 emails from a Freedom of Information request. information request, it's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to say the city's just not done anything or hasn't worked along the way, I don't think is fair. With regards to the 10 years, there's a reason it says 10 years. Things change. If you approve a project, traffic's different, schools are different, everything's different, economics are different. So to say, well, it was fine 10 years ago, it's fine now, I just don't think that's a valid approach. And, you know, we're going to do what's in the best interest of the city. We have a difference in philosophy on what that is, but I don't think it's fair to say they've been treated any differently.
Well, you can say that. I respectfully disagree, but you can't recite that there's the material breach. You can't say it. Under that agreement, there's been no material breach.
I will let Alderman
Okay.
Littman speak and then the city attorney.
That's fine.
Mr. Hyatt, thank you for coming tonight. I'm not going to debate with you tonight. I just have a clarifying question to ask.
Sure.
You refer to the public facilities agreement as a contract, and I believe you said that it applies to dwellings as of the effective date at the time of the resolution, and that you're now saying that there were no dwellings that were occupied at the time, so that provision should not require a hookup. Did I
That's
understand
true.
that correct?
That's exactly right. The
Okay.
language in the agreement states that dwelling occupied during or as of the effective date of the resolution serviced by well and septic, that was not the case.
Okay, so then answer for me, if you can, this question. If that's the case, then why was that provision included in the agreement if there were no dwellings to which it would apply?
Good question. It was drafted by the then city attorney. I don't know the answer to that. Very odd to me, but that's the way it reads, and the city was well aware. You know, there is a residence on that property that the owner resides in, but when that annexation took place, at the effective date of the resolution, that was a dwelling that was under construction, and the city agreed that it could continue under construction under the county permit. So it was clearly not occupied. And then there's a barn on the property, and then there's that other wellness structure. See? So, I don't know
Yeah.
why. Listen,
Yeah.
you know, 10 years ago, that's the deal that was made, and that's why there's no breach. I'm very confident there's no breach.
Certainly, there's a presumption that every clause in a contract has meaning, so I'm
Right.
hearing that conflict, and I'm interpreting that presumption as it should have some meaning, and your argument would make it meaningless. So that's a point I'm struggling with.
That's right. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
If anybody else would like to address the council, now's your opportunity. Seeing no motion, I declare comments by petitions, reports, and communications closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is approval of the consent calendar.
Is there any alderperson who wishes to remove any item from the consent calendar? Alderwoman Finlayson.
Thank you. I'd like to remove R21, 16, R22, 16, R23, 16, and R24, 16.
All right, anyone else? Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry,
Mayor
point of
Panaleo.
order. The agenda says that the chief of police will report the findings to the city clerk and then we'll act. So I think we skipped that step.
The items that were taken off we'll address after this. Is that
No.
what you're alluding to?
No, I'm talking about the renewals of towing leases is on the consent calendar.
It's part of the consent.
I'm sorry?
It is on the consent calendar.
The report is included? Where was the report?
I don't, it's attached.
What's that?
The renewal for the towing is on the consent calendar. When you
Okay.
approve the consent calendar, it will be approved.
Okay, thank you.
Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor Panaleo.
Aye.
Alderman Payan.
Aye.
Alderman Kendall Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Littman.
Aye.
Alderman Kirby.
Aye.
Alderman Pfeiffer. Alderman Arnett.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present our next item?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is public hearings continued, beginning with Ordinance O-13-16, Annual Operating Budget Fiscal Year 2017.
The first three people signed up to speak are Mark Rodriguez, Amalie Regalado, I apologize if I butchered your name, and Zolia Regalardo.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Mark Rodriguez, 502 Birch Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, for the record. I'm here first with a special message to my boss, mentor, and friend, wishing him a happy birthday, which was yesterday, to the Honorable Alderman Jared Littman. So, happy birthday. I hope that gets me a raise. And then the second item, I'm here because I want to thank you again for the amazing work session we had last Thursday. I want to thank all of you, and I think it was very productive. I believe we gave an authentic and important voice to those who often find themselves voiceless. But the decisions made here are also being heard by our wider community. So I'm here to formally present a petition in support of Alderman Littman's proposed amendment for the fiscal year 2017 operating budget for a Spanish services coordinator. We have currently close to 300 signatures of residents of the city of Annapolis and growing across all wards. And so I will continue to update with this with you, but I would like to formally hand this over to the council today in favor of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amalia Regalado. Sorry. I try. Okay, voy a hablar español. Mark va a traducir. Okay. Mi nombre es Amalia Regalado. Bueno, yo voy a representar lo que es los hispanos. En mi caso, yo hace muchos años que yo vine a este país. Yo no entendía el idioma, fue muy difícil para mí. Así como para mí hay muchas personas en este país que necesitan ayuda, ya sea en el transporte, en diferentes localidades que hay en lo que es el área de Annapolis, que necesitan que hayan como rótulos en español para explicar acerca de los beneficios que la comunidad de Annapolis tiene para lo que es nosotros los hispanos, ya que nosotros contamos como una familia más en este lugar. Ya esta es nuestra casa, ya cuando venimos a este país ya nosotros nos quedamos y lo que es Annapolis es nuestra casa. Nosotros buscamos trabajos mejores y algunas veces que necesitamos ayudas de lo que es la comunidad de Annapolis para más información. Bueno, mi hija, hace pocos años yo traje a mi hija, pues gracias a la escuela de high school y la maestra que le ayudó mucho, pues ella ha sobresalido y ahora ella se graduó de la high school y le dieron una beca full. Ella participó en lo que es National Honor Association y se ganó una beca completa para la Universidad Bryan Mawr, Pensilvania. Ella dice que quiere algún día ser doctora para ayudar mucho a lo que son los hispanos, porque, bueno, cuando venimos a este país no entendemos el idioma y necesitamos en nuestra comunidad personas que hablen nuestra lengua y nos ayuden. Bueno, voy a dejar a Mark para que él explique. Mi inglés no es muy bueno, pero dejo a él y luego mi hija. Gracias.
Hi, my name is Zoila Regalado, and yeah, that was my mom. And who understood what my mom said? Nobody, right? Yeah. What she said was that when she came here, she couldn't speak English and she didn't understand what everyone was saying, and like there are not like a lot of opportunities, and like
Can you speak into the microphone, please? And I think you need to state your address for the record, please.
okay. Like my mom was saying, like when she came here, she couldn't speak English and she didn't understand what everyone was saying, cause like she didn't understand anything, and I'm a little nervous. Like I came here and like
You're doing fine. Take a deep breath.
okay. So as my boss, Jared, he knows that I already graduated.
You might need to clarify that you work at the hardware store.
Yeah, like I worked at True Value as a cashier, and this fall, I'm going to Bryn Mawr. I received a full scholarship, and thank you for the teachers at Annapolis High. I received like a lot of help from them, and they helped me be here, and yeah, and I think that bringing someone that can help the Hispanic community can be can help them, because I think most of them have like helped the city be more productive than it used to be, because not everyone is like destroying what it's already made, and I think that bringing like a Spanish coordinator to the city will be a really helpful person to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three people that are signed up to speak are Sergio Palanco, Tanya St. John, and Helena Hunter.
Hi everyone, my name is Sergio Polanco. My address is 791 Harmony Avenue, Arnold, Maryland, 21012. The reason I'm here, first of all, I'd like to introduce with you the bilingual magazine I do for Annapolis area. When I would start this project in Frederick area, 2014, basically, I was to start thinking about how can I engage the Anglo community and the Latino community. How can I provide to my community the information about the services, the local information they have. It's a lot of services all around here that are free for them. They don't know where they are. It's a lot of companies, a lot of industries that are growing, and they're looking for bilingual people. They're looking for hard workers, and they don't know who they can find them. So many people, they have so many years here, and they still don't speak English. And there's a lot of resources outside, but they don't know where they are. 2014, I was start getting this magazine in Frederick area. By 2015, having a partnership with the local police department in every small county, having a partnership with all the nonprofit organizations all around the small counties, having a partnership with the school district, with the health department, I can provide through my community the information they really need to know about it. So that's how Conexiones mean connections. You will have a copy soon there. It's all about making this connection through this community. By 2015, I have the award for the Latino Business of the Year in Maryland State, just to hard work with my community. October last year, I'm come to Annapolis and start doing this magazine. It's a monthly magazine for the community. It's free for the community, and this is how we need approach these communities. We need to know what the communities need about it. So having for us the Hispanic Services Coordinator, that will a bridge we need for them. So this is the way I try to support this community, and I need you guys, your help through my communities outside there. Every year is hundreds of students graduating from the high school. We need these guys vote, political reasons. We need these guys instruction them about how hard we work and how we can make a difference. We need more leaders outside, and this is the reason I'm here. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Tanya St. John. I live at 1527 Fenway Road in Crofton. I feel I have a unique perspective on this topic. I am fully bilingual, and I consider myself bicultural as well. I came to the United States from Puerto Rico when I was 4 years old, and as I think back, growing up, to the people that my mother gravitated toward, she looked for bridges, and these were people who spoke her language and could connect her to her environment, to her community. It wasn't an unwillingness to assimilate, it wasn't an unwillingness to learn the language, but all of that takes time. And so in the meantime, she looked for people who could help her do that. I first saw the need here in this city when I worked as a bilingual facilitator for Anne Arundel County Public Schools, registering students from all over the world into the county. And again, simply people not being able to access services, not knowing where to go, not knowing what direction to turn to because they simply could not communicate. The language barrier was just too great. Sorry. I just feel that what a better message to send the Hispanics in our community, what a better way to reframe a message. Instead of, yes, we accept the fact that you are here, reframe the message to, we welcome you and we recognize that you are members of our community and we accept that you have contributions to make and we would like to help you make those contributions by providing a Spanish services coordinator, warm body who is a trusted person in the community and can be that bridge. I think we're sending an important message to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Helena Hunter, and I live at 97 Quarter Landing Road in Annapolis. I'm here as just a citizen and also as a board president of Seeds for Success. I really support the Spanish Service Coordinator position. The personal reason I have is I've been really impressed by some tragic events and how the community of Charleston and also the community of Orlando came together. And I think we all need to, in Annapolis, look deep into our core values. Do we value every citizen, and do we want them to have services that they need? I think it's really essential. I see the Spanish population or Hispanic population growing. We've seen that in Seeds for Success and mostly in Eastport Girls Club, We have about half of our girls are Latina. They come mostly from the Bashir Street area, living in the housing over there. They come with a lot of needs, many of them mental health issues from their travels to get to Annapolis. Mr. Hudson spoke eloquently about them at the workshop that you all had. It's pretty incredible, but I think with the support that we give them, it's been very helpful. We've been able to get some of our girls into the performing and visual arts. These girls are extremely talented. They just need that extra boost. And I think we reach out as much as we can to the families, but there are translation problems. So it's really good. We're always struggling for translators. We're always looking for kinds of services. I knew it, but I couldn't accept it that there's only one mental health counselor in the city that is bilingual. That's incredible. We really need to work on that. And I would hope as a city that we could really come together and support the Spanish Services Coordinator. Any questions? Good to see you all again. It's been a long time. No more grant presentations. I kind of miss those things. Okay? Thanks.
The last two speakers this evening are Patricia Omana and Stephen R. Strawn.
Good evening. How are you? My name is Patricia Omaña, and I live in 9090 Stebbing Way in Laurel, Maryland. I'm the president of the board of the Center of Help, the Centro de Ayuda, and I have a different type of story. I came to this country, and I knew English. My parents both studied in American school in Venezuela. I grew up in Caracas, Venezuela. But if it weren't for my aunt, they didn't know who to touch to, who to go, what school district we were in. Obviously, this was way many years ago. And this is having the language. So the reason I say this is because it's not only language barrier, it's picking up and going to a different county, to going to a different city, to going to a different state. You have to start from scratch. You need to know who are those people and where to go, how to go, who to talk to. So imagine now having not communication to be able to ask those questions. Not only that, I also want to give you the other side of the coin. We have the Center of Help, and we do help a lot of people, and most of these organizations and the school system are doing an amazing job. But now we on our side don't have really that connect to the city. Who do we call to when we have a couple of questions? You know, we bug some of our aldermen. We don't want to bug the mayor too much. He has too much job in his hand. But having that person that could be that bridge of back and forth, not only connecting the community, but those of us that are working with the community, having someone to connect to that then will let you guys know what's going on, what are the issues out there. So I wanted to also bring that perspective on the other side of the coin. So I thank you very much for having us here, and I thank you if you consider this position of Spanish Services Coordinator. Good night.
Thank you. If anybody else would like to address the council on this budget, please come forward. Now is your opportunity.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Doug Smith. I'm speaking tonight as president of the Annapolis Partnership. I would like to thank you for the support you've provided this year. We've made great progress. Earlier today, I delivered in everybody's mailbox a brief brochure describing the partnership and the programs that we're driving this year. It outlines the specifics of a Main Street program and the things that we're focused on. And I think it's worth noting that we look at this partnership as really a community of the residents of the city, you as council members, business owners, volunteers, all folks that are interested in helping sustain our local business. Our mission, as we describe it, is to preserve our historic assets that make this city great and also to sustain the local businesses. In earlier discussions of the budget, there was a question raised of why the city should provide any support at all to the Annapolis Partnership. I would suggest that the city's grant investment in the partnership provides very tangible returns to the city. We've got a wonderful offering of locally owned businesses. These are the businesses that I think really create the unique Annapolis experience that we all enjoy. As you know, many of these businesses are owned locally. The business owner is also the person you see in the store, the clerk, the person that does the purchasing, pays the employees, all the jobs that it takes to run a successful business. On their own, it would be very difficult for them to mount a program like the Flower Basket program that costs over $40,000. So by pooling resources, we're able to bring together some programs that I think really make the city very attractive. Same for the holiday decorations that we all enjoy in December. Our goal is to bring customers into the city. Customers can be residents, they can be visitors. We have a great partnership with Visit Annapolis that broadcasts our offering beyond the city limits. When those customers are here, they help generate the income in a couple areas. And with Alderman Budge's help, we identified some that I think are worth talking about. The surplus revenue from parking that is transferred to support other programs in the city. The admissions tax, the hotel tax that we receive a portion of. Those total over $5 million. So those are monies that come into the general fund and can be used to support programs that are put in place across the city. So I thank you again for your support this past year, and I would encourage your support for Annapolis Partnership in the next budget cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Seeing no motion in the chambers, I declare the public hearing on O-1316 closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present our next agenda item?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is Ordinance O-14-16, Capital Budget Fiscal Year 2017.
There was nobody signed up in advance to speak. If you would like to address the council on this subject, please come forward. Seeing no motion, I declare the public hearing on O-1416 closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is Resolution R-10-16, Position Classifications and Pay Plan.
Nobody was signed up in advance to speak. If you'd like to address the council, now is your opportunity. Seeing no motion, I declare the public hearing on R-10-16 closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing beginning with Resolution R-11-16, Capital Improvement Program, fiscal years 2017 through 2022.
If you would like to address the council on this subject, please come forward. Seeing no motion, I declare the public hearing on R-11-16 closed. Mr. City Attorney, will you please present our next item?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is Resolution R-12-16, FY 2017 Fee Schedule effective July 1st, 2016.
Nobody was signed up. If you'd like to address the council, now is your opportunity. Seeing no motion, I declare the public hearing on R-12-16 closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is Resolution R-13-16, FY 2017 Fine Schedule effective July 1st, 2016.
If you would like to address the council, please come forward. Now is your opportunity. Seeing no motion, I declare the public hearing on R1316 closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing beginning with Ordinance O-24-16, snow emergency routes.
Nobody had signed up in advance. If you'd like to address the council, now's your chance. Seeing no motion, I declare the public hearing on O-24-16 closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing on Ordinance O-25-16, City Code maximum penalty provisions.
If anybody would like to speak, now's your opportunity. Seeing no motion, I declare the public hearing on O-25-16 closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. The next item on the agenda is legislative actions on first reader removed from the consent calendar, beginning with R-21-16, Catherine Properties Annexation and Public Facilities Agreement status.
Is there a motion to adopt R-21-16 on first reader? Your second? Second. Any discussion? Alderwoman Finlayson.
All three pieces of, four resolutions are of concern to me. So I'd like to address all of them, and I'd like for our city attorney to address the need. It doesn't feel right, and I have not had the opportunity to read Mr. Hyatt's letter. I understand we got it early this morning, but haven't had an opportunity to read it. But on the surface, it looks like we're trying to manipulate something. We were told several weeks ago about something that was found in the annexation. And still not quite sure how that came about or why. And I remember someone asked, well, is this applicable to others? And then we have now 4 annexations that are in question. It feels like it's a delay tactic. It feels like it's political motivation or politically motivated. It feels like it's being used to delay an action until after the next election. So, Mr. City Attorney, would you explain to us, please, the need for these resolutions and where they will take us, because that is my next concern.
Happily. Let me begin with the time frame, because you said you've only heard about this several weeks ago. I
think it was.
I began talking to the council about this several months ago.
March it was.
And that's several months.
Yes.
And the issue, very simply, irrespective of how we all feel and what we think might be the motivation, is that the city has laws, and the charter is like our Constitution. It is our highest law. And as I've explained to the council members before, the principal reason this arose and was new information to me was because coming into this late in the process, since these occurred in 2004, 2005, 2006, only became aware of certain provisions as I actually looked at the documents this year. And the reason I looked at those documents was because the owner of the Catherine Properties property suggested, through Mr. Hyatt, her attorney, that they should be allowed to effectively read their agreement to allow them to place stormwater management off the development site and in the area that the agreement says is proposed for a conservation easement. And the folks at DNEP came to me and said, is that legal? On its face, it's not. However, as Mr. Hyatt suggested, there are contracts involved here that the council specifically created a requirement before the annexation became effective that there would be a public facilities agreement that would specify what the owner's responsibilities were should the annexation go forward. And the one responsibility that stands effective today, because there has been no development yet, is with regard to the provisions of water and sewer on the property. I would suggest to you that Mr. Hyatt's continued argument that this is somehow misplaced and meaningless and ill-conceived is simply because it is contrary to his position. He and I have discussed this at great length on numerous occasions, and I chose not to have a legal argument with him and waste lots of time on your behalf. My position as your attorney is now, and has been throughout this entire process, that the charter provisions require all provisions of the city code and city laws and its development procedures and its taxes to be in effect at the latest at 10 years. And what Mr. Hyatt doesn't speak to you about, and claims this is somehow delay on our part, is that when everyone entered into these agreements a decade ago, at least anecdotally what I've heard, is everyone expected Crystal Springs to be built in 3 to 5 years, and so we would never get to the 10-year outside chance. With regard to the water and sewer provisions that he said, these residential units were not occupied, there's some debate about that. And so rather than taking the course that I think is not appropriate at this time, suing the owner and demanding they take certain actions, as you all know, I came to the council and I said, we have several choices. I think going to court is not the appropriate first step. I believe the appropriate first step is to engage the owner and look at how we can reform the agreement to bring them back into compliance with our laws. As you'll recall, hooking, at this point, 2 homes and 1 barn facility to a sewer service that is thousands of feet away will be very expensive. But our law says people have to be connected at the end of 10 years, regardless of whatever the agreements are. The 10-year provision in the agreement was an awareness and a specific reference to the fact that Mr. Hyatt and everyone else knew that 10 years was the outside date. Otherwise, they would have picked 5 years or 20 years or some other period. So rather than saying this is a delaying tactic, quite the opposite. The moment it became something that was on my radar, I brought it to the mayor's attention and shortly thereafter to your attention. I've been talking to Mr. Hyatt about this and said we want to move forward with these resolutions to attempt to negotiate. This does not delay any activity they're taking because the agreement is with the owner of Crystal Spring, not the potential developer. So the owner is the person that's responsible to the city and that we're responsible to. So I, quite frankly, looked at this as actually speeding things up because, as you might know, if we decided to go to court about this, as Mr. Hyatt so blithely suggested, going to the circuit court in Anne Arundel County is a 2 to 3 year process. And I would firmly suggest that this council will address this issue in a reasonable manner in a far shorter period of time. So it certainly was never my intent to give anyone the suggestion that this was an attempt to delay any of our processes from moving forward. And I hope that as you look at the facts with regard to what is necessary to reform this agreement, because our alternative right now is just to tell them they have to spend $2.5 to $3 million to hook up the sewers to 2 houses. That's your alternative right now.
Well, I do have 2 follow-up questions.
Please.
One is, what responsibility does the city have in making sure that our code is upheld.
That our code is,
That our code is upheld.
I think it falls to the city to enforce its own laws as simply as a matter of our charter. That's what the city government is charged with.
And when we don't do that,
Well, I don't think we have not upheld our laws because, as we discussed, the public facilities agreement gave the owner up to 10 years to connect. So 10 years came and went this March. And when it told, we immediately said to them, how would you like to deal with this? And their answer was, we have to do nothing. At which point, I
What is
proposed
our-
things to the council.
I'm sorry, what is our recourse when we don't agree and someone else's attorney doesn't agree? Because I would like to find or request officially that we have a third party, the AG's opinion on this legislation.
Well, at this point, you can certainly do that, but it would set a rather austere legal precedent, claiming that the legal officer for the city truly does not speak for the city. And I think you should consider that very carefully and recognize that the recourse here is to go to court. And that is a 2 to 3 year process.
Well, I think the other thing that I'm concerned about is just that, because I think we will end up in court, except we're going to be on the other side, and the 3 or 4 or 5 property owners are going to be suing us. So in an effort to make sure that we are on the right path, I would think that an AG's opinion is an appropriate request.
Well, I would respectfully disagree, but this is the council's choice, and if you would prefer to say that your chief legal officer is not giving you competent advice, that is your choice.
Well, it's not about you particularly.
I didn't say
issue.
that. I said that
Okay.
whoever is in this seat.
So is it necessary for a written request, or how does this take place?
If I may jump in for a second on what Mike said, if we're going to go forward and we're questioning what one of our department heads does, we certainly have that right to bring it up in this council and say, I don't agree with your opinion. But that would be a similar note if we compare it to other department heads. If I didn't agree with something that the chief of police did, to say, I'd like to get the head of the Chiefs Association, which happens to be our chief, to weigh in. Or I'd like to get a fire chief from another thing to weigh in. I think we have to respect their opinion. Two, you mentioned the AG coming in. Obviously, he'd probably do it for free as another entity. But what are we going to go down the slippery slope where somebody says, I'd like a private attorney to come in? Then we basically have 9 people up here that can seek 9 separate legal opinions, and it's just going to be a nightmare and disaster. I don't know how it's going to work.
As I requested, the AG is the head legal mind of the state of Maryland. That's why I suggested his opinion.
That's true, but you've seen in the Forest Conservation Act, DNR has an attorney, the AG has an attorney, and they don't always necessarily agree. I think Mike would say, and all the lawyers would agree, it's hard to get 2 lawyers to agree to anything. So we could be here all day, and the more we have, the more complicated it's going to get.
And very simply, just
yes, sir.
Just if I may, just answer that point. All attorneys give opinions, and their opinions are simply that. They are the attorney's opinion based on what evidence is in front of them and their interpretation of that. The only opinion that ultimately matters, if 2 attorneys disagree, is what the court says. So, although I certainly understand your respect for an attorney general's opinion, I can point out numerous occasions in the history of the state of Maryland where attorney general opinions have been overturned because the courts disagreed with the attorney general.
Alderman Payne?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. We've delved into a discussion totally off of what's in front of us for first reader at this point.
I agree. Any other comments? Alderman Kirby?
Yeah, for discussion purposes, I don't concur.
Point of order. Discussion is out of order here. We have a duly constituted and sponsored set of legislation that is being offered on first reader. Time for discussion is after we vote on first reader, not now. We're debating
The mayor
this
asked for
legislation
discussion.
before
No.
we got into the agreeing that this even legislation.
I think
No.
you agree, historically, we've done that in the past, but in Robert's rules,
Historically-
it is a point to say a discussion before we vote on a piece
Yeah,
of
and there,
legislation.
there are a set of variables right now that exist that plays exactly into part of the statement I'm going to make right now, which is with a 10-year tenure, 2 administrations later, we're going to nullify 4 annexations because of a public facility status that took 10 years to come to be. And at no point did we as a city send a letter of inquiry as to, do you intend to follow through with these annexation procedures, procedural matters, anything else? Through administrations later and people in jobs that's no longer around. And so, yeah, it's real viable right now that you're asking the questions to our city attorney, because we start from ground zero again very soon. It's just incomprehensible to me that we would get to this point right now where, and had it not been taken off the consent calendar, I probably would have sat here and missed the entire thing.
Mr. Alderman, to your
But
point.
I do remember the conversation with you.
But-
I knew it was one property. I didn't know it was 3 or 4
But
properties.
to your point,
Yeah.
none of these resolutions will negate any annexation. These resolutions create a process whereby the council can seek advice and decide how it desires to move forward. My recommendation is that you do not detach or de-annex the property, but rather you find a way with the owners to determine how, in a way that is equitable to them because of the expense, and equitable to the city because they have a legal responsibility to come to an agreement. It's that simple. This is not a secret way to somehow stop development or create additional burdens. Quite the opposite.
Please, Alderman Kirby.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I can handle that. A lot better than litigating in a courtroom for 3 years with 4 property owners fighting the city, or if we can find an amendable agreement, some kind of way, that would be news to me. I just don't. I don't think we want to be a body that seemingly, whatever way it comes out, seemingly knuckle down to folk on the peninsula that don't want any more development along Forest Drive. And I think that's the central issue here. And I mean, everybody around this dais knows that that's the issue here. Plain and simple. So for this to crop up at this point, and my 7th year on this council, that's a problem even for me. I'm sorry.
Alderman Arnett?
It could not have possibly cropped up earlier because we only now reached 10 years. So to allude that somehow we should have been doing something about 10 years before we got to it does not make sense to me. I call the question.
All right. Any other discussion? Call the question, all right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Repeat the motion. What is it? Adopt on first reader?
Adopt on first reader, yes.
No.
The ayes have it. I refer R2116 on first reader to Rules and City Government and to the Transportation Committee. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
I'd like it in Housing and Human Welfare as well, please.
I'm sorry.
I'd like it in Housing and Human Welfare as well.
I move it to Housing and Human Welfare as well. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is R22-16 Annapolis Neck Road Property Annexation and Public Facility Agreement Status.
So moved.
Second.
I would say discussion, but I'm sure it's the same thing we already had, but is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is R23-16, Rogers Property Annexation and Public Facilities Agreement Status.
I want to go back for a second and refer R2216 on first reader to the Rules and City Government Committee, the Transportation Committee. Now, is there a motion to adopt R2316?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. I refer R2316 on first reader to the Rules and City Government and the Transportation Committee. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. The next item on the agenda is R-24-16, Annexation Resolutions Implementation Status.
Is there a motion to adopt R2416 on first reader?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
They didn't call for the nays yet.
I'm going to ask them right after this. I refer R2416 to the City Government and Transportation Committee. And Alderman Kirby, you had requested the first one go to Housing and Human Welfare. Would you like the other ones to go so as well? The other three annexations, would you like them referred as well? No. All right. All right. All right. So moved. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is the continuation of discussion on budget amendments.
As we go into this, I just want to say real quick, I appreciate the time everyone took to come up with these amendments well in advance. I also appreciate the time we've spent in work sessions. For me, they've been very helpful. We went over a number of them earlier today at about 5 p.m., but if anybody has any new amendments or anything else they'd like to discuss, now's their opportunity before we wrap up tonight's meeting. Alderman Payon?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to congratulate the city attorney for a fine job that he's done over the last couple of years. He will be sorely missed, but before he goes, some of my colleagues have asked me to have him discuss something that has been, definitely burning on in everybody's mind, and that is, could you please go into the difference between the rule against perpetuities versus, in light of the rule in Shelley's case and the statute of Anne, please? We need to have an explanation.
Well, thank you,
You don't have
Mr.
any
Alderman,
idea,
for your
neither do
kind
I.
for your kind discussion. But I would ask that before I give you an answer on that question, you explain to me your interpretation of the statute of frauds, because it's terribly material to my answer.
This is definitely the wrong venue to discuss anything about frauds.
Thank you again, Mr. Alderman. Thank you all.
I'd like to weigh in as well. Mr. Lay, it's been a pleasure working with you. I'm going to sorely miss you. We've discussed that before. I consider you a very fine professional. I found your counsel worthy, and your breadth of what goes on in many venues, whether it's the school system, the city, the county, the state. I've learned a lot, and I truly respect you for that. And for me personally, it's a great loss. But thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
Alderman Lacy?
Mr. Leahy, I've probably known you the longest,
You have indeed.
and it truly was a pleasure when you came to work with the city. And even though our last exchange probably wasn't the most pleasant one for you, I think it is our city's loss that you are moving on. We can't begrudge you for moving on. Bigger and better is always better. But truly, the city is losing a good friend and a wonderful advocate for us.
Well,
So
thank you.
I wish you the very best.
I appreciate that. You all know that this has been a very difficult decision for me. I'm going to get emotional now. I have enjoyed working with you as much, if not more, than anything else I've ever done in my professional career. And it goes without saying that although I will not have the privilege of serving you directly, I will just be up the hill and I hope to hear from each and every one of you regularly.
But you did tell us you were changing your phone number tomorrow, right?
You've still got my number, Alderman.
So, Mr. City Attorney, thank you. I echo my colleagues' sentiments. And we're not far away. We'll figure out a way to haunt you in the future.
I look forward to it.
Alderman Kirby?
Thank you very much. Drop that legal opinion in my box before you depart.
You bet.
I believe. For the last item to read, Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item?
Mr. Mayor, sadly, the agenda has been completed.
Before 9, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned.